A few weeks ago, I had to take an L and shut down a business that I've been running for the past 7 months. This is not something that's really talked about in the entrepreneurial space on social media, but I wanted to share this with you because I think there's some good learnings in what made this business fail. And I think it's important that when you do fail with something that you actually sit down, reflect, so you can take your learnings from your failure and not do them again in the future. So in today's video, what I want to do is I want to give you the top 3 reasons for why I think this business failed, and keep watching for reason number 3, because that is the most important thing of why I think this business actually failed. So keep watching for that. But let me just introduce myself if you're new to the channel. My name is Rasmus. I'm the owner of an agency called Minix. We specialize in helping D2C e-commerce brands scale holistically through paid ads, content creation, email marketing, and conversion rate optimization, all on a performance-based approach. And if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That will massively help me out. I read all questions, so if there's anything you want to talk about after watching the video, just leave it down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So first off, let me just give you a bit of backstory on this business. So we launched the business in end of June 2023. And basically the business was a course for people in Latin America to learn how to become UGC creators and basically teach them how to supplement their income making content for brands. And this tied in really well with what we do in the agency. Obviously, we do a lot of content for our clients, so we do a lot of UGC for our clients. And so us being able to basically give people a course, train them how to make really good content, and then because they're from Latin America, then basically get their videos for cheaper than what it costs in the US, it would make our agency stand out and give us an advantage over competitors, because we would basically be owning the IP. Not only did it tie well into our agency, but because I run an agency and we have a creative director, we know exactly what it takes to make good UGC. And so we can sell this to other agencies because we know their pain points, because we have the exact same pain points. So we can basically solve everything because we're on the other side of the table. And so there was a lot of possibilities basically in this, and a lot of upside, because the brand or the business was basically built around one of my employees at that time, who had a massive, or still has a massive following on TikTok. And she talks a lot about being an influencer, making content for brands. And so her audience basically was ready to buy this product. They were in the perfect audience for us. And so we ended up launching this thing in June, right? And before that, we had just made an MVP. So we were going to do 4 modules total. That was going to be the entire course. And what we did before launch is that we just made 1 module and then tried to launch it at a beta price. And we priced this super cheap. I thought in the beginning I was going to price it at $79 per month, so it was going to be subscription. And then we thought, okay, let's maybe sell it at $49 for the initial test. And then after some more discussion, we ended up settling at $29, because in Latin America they just don't have that much money. So I was like, okay, we can sell it at $29. That's going to be an absolute no-brainer for everyone, and for sure we're going to sell out, right? It should be a piece of cake basically. And it launched did actually go very well. So what we did was that we limited the spots, so we wanted to make it more exclusive. So we basically said we're only going to allow 100 people to join the program at this price, and we did that. We sold out in 2 or 3 hours. It was amazing. Spots went out super quick, and now we had a business already doing close to 3K per month in 2 hours. And we only had 1 module. We only basically have made 25% of the entire product, and we already had a business almost doing $40,000, $35,000 per year in revenue. Great, everything was good. Then we did a second launch, I think 2 weeks later, and this also still went great. We did the same thing. So we actually said, okay, we're going to open 100 more spots because we had a lot of demand, and we're going to open 100 spots more for the same price, $29 per month. And after this, it's game over. Then you'll have to pay more. And we sold, I think 80 or 90 spots, which meant that we were doing somewhere around, let's just say 5.5K per month, which is great. After this, basically, it then starts to go downhill, and the first issue really pops up. So the first issue, or the first real big problem we had, was payment issues. And payment issues for us showed 2 ways. First was purely just the price. It was too high. We had a lot of people saying, even for $29 per month, they were like, oh, it's too expensive. What can we do? I'm not sure I can afford this in 2-3 months. What can we do? $29 for me is a lot of money. And we had a lot of people saying this. And I was kind of shocked, because I was like, $29 a month is literally nothing. But we purely just underestimated the market and their actual purchasing power, which was a massive mistake, because our plan was to sell this for $49, $79. ideally eventually $99 a month as a subscription. But if people have an issue paying 29 bucks per month, then it's never really gonna go there. Then there's a massive gap between what you want to charge and what people can actually afford, and that's just because we chose the wrong people to actually sell to, which I'll get to. The second issue we had with payments was that we had over 50% failed payments, and this was probably one of the more stressful days of my life. It was pretty intense because as we came up to this renewal date, 21st of July, we were all kind of excited, what's gonna happen, and then it just trickled in hour after hour. And in 2 hours, out of 100 people who should have renewed, I think 53 or 55 people failed their payments for different reasons. But the biggest reason was because their bank simply declined the charge. And what we didn't realize was that Stripe is not a big thing in Latin America. It's not their main payment provider. And so what happened was that their banks didn't really recognize Stripe because they're used to different payment providers, such as, like, let's say Klarna, which is a big thing in the West. And so their banks simply said, like, we don't know what this charge is, so we're not gonna let it through. And that's a massive issue. And we got it down, I think, to 30% after really like putting in a lot of effort and talking to everyone who signed up and people who failed payments, saying, hey, just make sure your bank knows, like, this is coming. We set up like massive amounts of email reminders, texting them basically every day for 3 days before the charge came up, and we only managed to get it down 30%. And for anyone who doesn't know, in a subscription business, like anything above 10%, it depends a bit on like who you're selling to and like what your ideal market is, but anything above generally 10%, especially in the B2C category, is like too high, and we only managed to get it down to 30. So like it's unsustainable to even run a business like that, because every time you make $1, you have to give 33 cents back. You just know, okay, they're lost within a month, and so there's no retention in it. And if you saw one of my last videos, I talked a lot about stickiness and why a lot of business has issues with that, and it's a massive driver for whether you're gonna have success or not. And we just didn't have stickiness. We couldn't keep them purely because of payment issues, which is wild. Now, moving on, the second issue we faced that contributed to this project simply failing was just community management and keeping the community alive. And this came from both sides, really, with the agencies that we tried to like sell these creators to, even though they got them for free, but also the creators. So on the agency side, it seemed like they were very curious when they signed up in the beginning, but as they kind of got into it, their curiosity and like their desire to actually get anything done, even though it was for free, like they didn't pay us anything, they just had to pay the content creator, it just faded super quick and they weren't really interested in it. And I think I underestimated how well you actually need to make software to make someone interested in using it. Like, we use Discord to basically run the business, and then we had a ClickUp, so we use like a simple software that's not really meant for this type of job, but we use a software where they could fill out a form and then they would get a link sent, and then they could like pick out their creator, and it was just like very poorly made. Like it looked like an MVP, a minimal viable product. It wasn't like a fully fetched super sleek software. But I think this was what we needed to do to actually make this side of the business succeed. As I'm thinking about it, like no one really likes, and not even me, likes to use software or platforms that are poorly made. Like, user interface and user experience is by far the most important thing. And because we just had like a very homemade solution, basically, no one was interested in using it. And so basically what I needed to do was I needed to invest in better and cleaner systems that worked more efficiently. And this was just not something we were in the position to do. And that contributed a lot to why we weren't able to give these creators, that basically our customers, jobs and an opportunity to make money directly from our course. On the customer side of things though, I think the reason why they weren't really interested in keeping engaging with the community was that our course was simply too short and we weren't fast enough to make new material for them so they could keep learning. So our course was basically, I think, 10 hours or something. And if you're dedicated to something, like you just bought it and you're interested in it, like you can go through 10 hours of content in 2-3 days. That's very, very reasonable. But when you're done with that, then you have to try and apply it. And that's hard work. And if you only paid 29 bucks for something, then you're not really interested in doing that much of hard work. But you try a little bit, let's say you don't see some success because no one do in the beginning, then you give up, and then you don't want to engage in the community anymore and you just cancel your subscription, right? So I think if we had been better at actually making new resources, new modules, and doing better training, we would have been able to keep people engaged so that they would have tried harder and then seen success. So basically, the first employee that the business kind of revolved around left the business a couple months later, and then I got a new employee who then handled it. But both of these people made a career in this field, so they had direct knowledge starting from nothing, and so the information was really, really good. But if you're a beginner, you're just like, you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you don't know, so you need to try a little bit, right? But if you haven't invested enough, then you're not really motivated to keep succeeding, which leads me into reason number 3, the biggest reason why this failed. We chose the wrong business model. So what we basically did, that was a massive, massive mistake, was that we tried to target people who were looking to supplement their main income making UGC videos for other brands and make money in USD. And these people simply don't have enough skin in the game. What I mean by skin in the game is basically twofold. One, they didn't have enough like financial skin in the game. There wasn't enough of a financial burden on these people to actually go out and succeed with this. Because if you only pay $29 a month, and yes, these people may have said, oh, it's a lot of money, but there are people in Latin America also selling courses for $100, $200, $500, $1,000. So like, people can still afford it, but they just weren't interested enough to actually do it. And if you don't have enough financial skin in the game, and this is something I've also learned from the agency space, then you're just not as motivated to do it. Like, imagine if you go out and buy something. Let's say you go out and buy a jacket, or you buy a piece of clothing or something, or a watch, or some jewelry, and you pay a very large sum of money for this. If you go out and buy a watch for $20,000, you're also going to take very, very good care of this watch. If you buy a watch for $20 in the airport or on the plane or something, cheap plastic watch, you're not going to take good care of it. And it's the same issue that we faced. Because people didn't invest a ton of money, they weren't that motivated to actually go out and succeed with this. The second issue was that their consequence of failure was not big enough. And so what I mean by this is that I run an agency, right? I am self-employed basically. I run my own business. So I need to make this work. I need to make this business work. There's no other way for me than to succeed basically. Otherwise, I'm gonna go broke. So my consequence of failure within my agency is massive, right? I cannot fail. I cannot allow myself to fail in this business. Now, these people, they already have a job, which means that if they don't succeed with UGC, their consequence is not going to be that big. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. I tried, I paid $29. I just go back to my job and then I'll watch Netflix after work or go to the gym or whatever they want to do, read a book. I don't care. But so their downside basically it's $29. Whereas my downside, if I were to invest into something like this, would be $29. But also I could lose all my employees. I have a lot more stake, right? I have employees. I literally pay people to live their life, right? I'm responsible for other people's living. So I need to make this work. These people, they don't. Our customers don't. So what we should have done is that we should have charged a higher price, but we should also have gone after a different segment, and we should have done the business model different. I don't think we should have done it as a course. I think we should have done it more as a done with you. So there was some coaching involved and we could be more one-on-one with these people. And we should have targeted a different audience that are already in the space and who are trying to make a career out of it, because these people, their consequence of failure is that they cannot go after their dream. A lot of our customers, they were like, oh, UGC, yeah, I've heard a little about being an influencer. It sounds interesting, so let me give it a try. And so they weren't really that motivated. And choosing the wrong business model was easily the biggest mistake we did, because I think if we'd chosen the right business model, then even if we had payment issues and even if we had issues keeping the community alive, those two things we could have figured out, because we could keep getting customers through the door to some extent. And I think a lot of the issues we could have handled better because people were more motivated to actually make this succeed. And if they're more willing to succeed or more motivated, then issues are just gonna get resolved quicker and more easily. So those three issues are easily, I think, the biggest contributors to why we actually failed. And the business model, I think, was the main driver for why we actually had to close down the business. And it was just not a viable thing to do in the long run, even though, we could have kept investing in it and tried to grow it. But at some point, you just gotta call it quits and take the L and take it on the chin and then move forward. But that pretty much wraps up today's video. I hope you found some real value in it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That will massively help me out and I would appreciate it. And if you have any questions, as I said in the beginning, leave a comment down below. I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, then I'll see you in the next week's video. Take care. Bye.